Switch hitting is one of the most powerful skills to master in combat sports. Exceedingly rare, but surprisingly common amongst the most legendary boxers to ever lace up gloves. Some, like Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson, used it sparingly, but very effectively. And some, like Marvelous Marvin Hagler or Vasily Lomachenko, made it arguably the very foundation of their style. Either way, it takes an immense amount of talent to master the art of hitting while changing stances. It does bring a multitude of benefits and an equal amount of hazards. Mastering changing between an orthodox stance, with the left foot forward, and a southpaw stance, with the right foot forward, allows fighters like Terence Crawford to have twice as many options, utilizing offense, defense, and counters from whichever stance suits them against their particular opponent at that moment. But the true power of Crawford's style, heavily reminiscent of Hagler's, comes from switching stances while exchanging, right in the middle of the action. That's when the sum of the parts become greater than the whole, because an effective switch hitter has access not only to the skill trees of orthodox and southpaw tactics, but to a whole separate skill set of extra techniques, all of their own. Techniques to bewilder and overwhelm even the greatest of competitors. So let's look at how many of the world's best fighters used switch hitting to dominate the respective eras of boxing. The first and simplest benefit of switch hitting is that it can help a fighter to apply tremendous pressure. There's a reason it's used by the most aggressive boxers in the world. Shifting forward can put pressure on the opponent in a way that conventional footwork just can't. For fighters like Manny Pacquiao or Marvin Hagler, stepping through as they punched not only extended their reach, but built up a whole lot of momentum.
Unbelievable. Morales, a true gladiator. 15 seconds. Down goes Morales again.
A shifting punch doesn't just cover more distance, it hits way harder. Now, most opponents are too smart to retreat backwards in a straight line. Moving sideways, lateral movement, is one of the main tactics for evading a rival who overcommits to their attacks. However, fighters like Terence Crawford have a solution to this problem. Here, Crawford perfectly demonstrates how to use shifting to step diagonally, cutting off his opponent's escape route. Not only does he block their exit, he adds enough reach to his punch to catch his foe in a spot where they had thought they were totally safe.
And with his hands. Oh, he hurt him with the right hand. Yeah, he's done with the left hand.
Some opponents may try to pivot away. This is where the turn shift comes in, a favorite of Marvin Hagler and Mike Tyson. Rather than pivot with the opponent to try and stay aligned with them as they pivot, a switch hitter can simply turn to face them. That's why I call it a turn shift. The opponent was expecting some much needed breathing room, but this footwork shortcut ensures there is no reprieve for them, only more pain. The next major upside to switch hitting is that it can add a lot of variety to a fighter's toolkit, facilitating more angles and potential counters. Lomachenko is a master at this tactic. He uses switch hitting to create new pathways, sneaking his punches through his opponent's defenses by linear shifting. The idea with linear shifting is to drastically change the position by moving across the opponent's center line, so that you can get set and throw before the opponent can get settled. Aside from creating angles, shifting mid-exchange can change which hand hits harder. James Lights Out Toney was exceptional at this. If there was an opening for his left hook, he could place it behind him so the punch hit harder, or vice versa. In this way, a skilled boxer can decide which hand is their power hand at any given moment. Now, fighters like Roy Jones Jr. used the variety available to switch hitters in a much different way. Jones would gamble on one big strike, committing his full weight to the attack. Then he would mitigate the danger by shifting away off angle. The idea was to leave before the opponent even knew what hit them. So far, we've covered how switch hitting can add power, up pressure, and create new angles. But switch hitting doesn't need to be so blatantly aggressive. One thing that's often ignored is what a great tool shifting backwards can be for setting up traps and landing counters. Great fighters can stay just out of reach to entice their competitors to overcommit. Uppercuts are a fantastic tool for this strategy, since opponents who overreach are also likely to be leaning forward.
One more time. There's no quitting Gamboa. He keeps battling, falling forward. Uppercut drops him again.
Just like when shifting forward, shifting back can add a lot of weight to the punch. Of course, shifting can be used for pure defense as well. It's always easier to shuffle towards the direction of your rear leg, so it's useful to change sides for that sometimes. And switching sides to close off and block strikes with your shoulder is also useful. The last tactic is the most impressive use of switch hitting, in my estimation. It is to flank the opponent. You force him to realign himself and then attack as he turns.
This is for a title. World Boxing Union's light heavyweight championship. And now, Toney beginning to box a bit more. And it's working. That's it.
Whereas the angle adjustments we looked at before had the switch hitter squaring up to the opponent, flanking involves moving towards their back. It leaves them defenseless, while the switch hitter has all the time in the world to fire off attacks.
Especially by being handicapped in the condition of Rodin. There was a right hand and Juan Domingo Rodin goes down.
You can check out my book on footwork to learn more. So, if switch hitting is so powerful, why doesn't everyone do it? Well, probably because they got really tired of getting punched in the nose. Switch hitting is dangerous and hard, and there are few times a boxer will be more vulnerable than the moment they are transitioning from one stance to another. If you don't want to get knocked out during that vulnerable time, you need pre-planned out defensive techniques that you drill regularly. Or, alternatively, you need to keep the opponent occupied with some kind of distraction, like a feint, hold, or trap. If you simply change stances while your opponent still has their wits about them, you will likely suffer for it. However, if you make switch hitting work for you, you'll always be one step ahead of the competition. Let me know your favorite switch hitters in the comments, or if there's any techniques or tactics you love that I missed. From the Modern Martial Artist, this has been David Christian, wishing you happy training.